But moving on to a good sequel.
Yes. Yeah. So my for my solo review this week, I went and watched A Shot in the Dark, which is the sequel to the Pink Panther. It's the second movie in the franchise, and we were talking before the show that this was the movie where they made when they realized, oh, people like Peter Sellers and they like Clouseau better than they like David Nevin's character, so they made a movie centered on Clouseau.
Yeah, which is kind of a rare thing. I mean, how often do you see them actually just make a sequel to a movie and elevate a secondary character to be the main?
Yeah, you don't see it very often. Yeah, and when you do, it's not very successful.
No. Like it's like with Roseanne when she got canceled and they tried to continue on with just like her family and oh, Roseanne died.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
I
didn't
don't
work
believe
very
that
well.
lasted long.
No, I don't think it did. But yeah, this was and this is also the movie where like it starts off the formula of the Pink Panther movies, where because this is the first movie with Kato, who's Clouseau's Japanese servant, and his boss, Commissioner Dreyfus, who by the end of the movie just goes completely insane and tries to kill Clouseau.
Right. Because Clouseau is a crazy French stereotype.
Yes, and it's a total idiot and a klutz. Um, but yeah, so this movie, there's a murder in a millionaire's mansion, and the prime suspect in the murder is the chambermaid, who's played by Elkie Summers, who is I'm trying to think of the modern day equivalent for her. I guess. Well, what's her name in Madam Web? I guess would be the modern day equivalent.
Oh, and Julia Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney.
God, what is with me and actor names today?
That's all right. um, but
I think there is actually a Julia Sweeney out there, so I got my wires crossed.
yes, I think there is. Yeah. But yeah. So she's the prime suspect, but Clouseau doesn't think that she did it because he's totally simping for her. And oh, you're muted.
Because she's hot, how can she be evil if she's pretty? It doesn't compute.
Exactly. Yeah. And there are a couple of scenes in there where he's talking to his partner, his assistant, and he's like, this is a fact. The gun was found and she was in the room with the murder victim, and a fact, the gun was in her hand, and he's going through all this. And,
Oh, I remember that too. Like I saw this when I was in junior high, so I have
oh
like
yeah.
very faint memories. And like whoever he was with is like, well, then she clearly did it. None.
No, you imbecile! How could you think that?
That is too obvious.
Yes. Yeah, and so yeah, and then of course there's also the running gag where like somebody dies and then she's considered the suspect, and then but then he lets her go. And Dreyfus is just like, yeah, he does the eye twitch. He's like, he let her go again.
Uh,
And I will say, like, probably the funniest part for me is when she's at a nudist colony, and he goes to the nudist colony to see her, and of course he walks in wearing his trench coat and his hat, and
yeah.
and he talks to the guy at the reception desk, and he looks at him and says, "Have you been swimming?" He says, "Well, yes. How did you know?" "It's my business to know." And so, well, of course, they won't let him in because he's dressed. So
Right.
he has to strip down to his birthday suit, and he's got like a guitar, covering himself,
The-
uh,
the- yeah, I remember enjoying this when I watched it as a smaller man.
yeah, yeah, I did too. And yeah, I mean, the humor is what you expect from it. It's a lot of physical comedy, a lot of you know, just Clouseau being Clouseau. He was just a, although he is actually a little a little bit smart in this movie. One of the things I noticed with each subsequent Pink Panther movie is that he just gets dumber.
It's a pretty common comedy character thing, like
Mhm.
in The Simpsons, where even in season six, that on their fake behind the scenes thing,
Mm.
Troy McClure, reader so and so asks, or excuse me, viewer so and so asks, is it just me or does Homer get dumber every season?
Yeah, yeah. Like, we don't know what you're talking about. um, but yeah, it's this is a really, it's a funny movie. And it's got all the usual Cluzoisms. I can't remember why, but I thought that this was the movie where he does the parallel bars,
Hmm,
but I think that was like the fourth one. Where
okay.
he's does the parallel bars and then he dismounts and he falls down the stairs.
Uh,
uh,
so where did you end up watching this?
I watched it on Max.
Okay,
Yeah. Um, and I think all of the Pink Panther movies are on there. Um,
that's interesting considering I guess it's an MGM product, so
yeah.
that- what tangled webs we weave when we get into streaming wars and content libraries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, I this one was probably my favorite in the franchise. And then I think about it, either I would say that this one or the third one. But the third one
Okay.
was pretty funny too. That was one where they actually brought back the Phantom. That was Nevin's character in the first movie, but he's played by Christopher Plummer.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, uh, but yeah, no, it's really funny, and of course, thankfully in this one, this is Clouseau isn't calling Cato by a bunch of racist names.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think it was like the fourth or the fifth one where he's like getting on him about like his skin color, which is like,
Oh,
oh.
ugh.
Yeah, which even at the time when I first watched watched those movies, like you, I first watched them like 20 years ago. Even then, I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. You can really only get away with a character doing that if they get punished for it karmically afterwards.
Yeah, well, he might have gotten punished comically for it. I can't remember,
Right.
but yeah, but no, I mean, yeah, give this movie a watch if you've never seen it. And the nice thing too is you have to watch the first movie to know what happens in this movie. So
Right, because they basically shoved the original main character to the curb.
right, exactly.